September 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Commission members are appointed by the Select Board of the Town of Milton to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act and the Milton Town Bylaw governing wetlands. As a matter of course, we introduce ourselves. My name is John Kiernan.
I'm Steve Ibis, Conservation Agent.
Jerry, you're next in my
Jerry Burke, Commissioner.
Thank you. Arthur's next.
Arthur Doyle, Commissioner.
Wendy.
I'm Wendy Garpo, also Commissioner.
And I can't see Ingrid, but I think she's there. There you are.
Ingrid, yep, Ingrid Beatty, Commissioner.
Oh, perfect. And also, as a matter of course, we invite the public to ask questions, make comments, and participate. But we do ask that you introduce yourselves for the purpose of the record, and this meeting is being recorded. First on the agenda is the MCC Enforcement Order Protocols. And for the public's benefit, we, meaning the Commission, had a prior public meeting in which was discussed a potential change to our regulation, and also a submission of a policy statement that you could upload onto the town website. On August 25th, I made a presentation to the Select Board and submitted both the policy statement, which requires no real Select Board action, formal action, although we invite their support or criticisms or comments. But the regulation does require that we submit to the Select Board and they approve or disapprove the requested changes to our regulation. The regulation has been disseminated publicly. It is in the public record. It was submitted to the Select Board, and on the 25th, they suggested that we, formally adopt and request that the Select Board adopt our proposed revisions as a regulation, and that they would then consider submitting that proposal for public comment for a 30-day period. In addition, they would submit the proposed regulation change to Town Council for comments and suggestions. So at this juncture, we have disseminated to the Commission members and to the public the proposed, and I'll read from the proposal. It is the Wetland Compliance Enforcement Regulation for Milton Conservation Commission. And these proposed amendments would go to Section 7, which is entitled Enforcement. And I wonder if anybody, first of all, I want to confirm that everybody has this. And second, I'd like to invite any questions, comments, suggested changes, or a comment on whether or not we should pass this on as an official request of the Select Board. Any comments? Ingrid, did you have an opportunity to read?
Yeah, actually, I thought you were referring to some new document that you had sent. I had read this actually when we had before our last meeting, but I did reread it, and I think it's fine.
Please note that there is an amendment. The second to last paragraph was placed in there, and that was at the suggestion of Arthur Doyle. And it says,
yeah, hold on. That's right. I did, Arthur. I did see that correspondence. Let me just re-review that just to refresh my memory.
And while you're reading, for the public's benefit, I will read the additional amendment that at the suggestion of Arthur Doyle we put in, and it says, quote, in all instances of communication with a property owner or their representative, Milton Conservation Commission members or their agent or agents should identify themselves as such, and in all instances of site visits, Milton Conservation Commission members and their agent, plural, should possess appropriate identification issued by the town of Milton. So that is an addition since our last meeting.
And I should tell everybody that I have a card, and so does Arthur, identifying us as Conservation Commission members at least, or actually my card says Milton DPW, I think, which is fine.
I confess that I do not have an ID card, but I will ask somebody for one. I guess it would be Mike Dennehy.
It's actually, you ask Mark Dennehy, and then he refers you to the police station.
Okay.
And then they take a picture.
All right.
Should we all go through that process?
Yes, we should.
Yes.
Okay. So
very simple process.
Is it a picture ID?
Yes. And they give it to you right there as well. So there's a little machine that takes the photograph and puts the photograph into a little card. And it's the same size as a credit card.
Right.
It's about 10, 15 minutes.
Right, at most, right.
You
Okay,
just
so
go
our-
down to the police station.
Yes.
but first we have to contact Dennehy?
You can really contact the police station directly. That's what I did.
Okay,
And so did I.
okay.
And there's a lieutenant there who takes care of it. I'll try and find the email with that information and get it around to help everyone.
Okay, that would be
Thanks,
good.
Arthur.
All right,
Find another slip. John, may I mention that we did use, we did have resources when we were developing this proposed change. One was the Wetlands Enforcement Manual from the Department of Environmental Protection, and also we had town input. We had a meeting with representatives of the Equity and Justice Committee.
agreed. Did we freeze? Arthur, had you completed?
Yes, I have.
All right, are there any questions from commissioners or comments? Are there any members of the public that wish to ask a question or make a comment about our proposed regulatory change? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the latest revision as a formal resolution and request to the select board to implement this as a regulation, which would be in section 7 of the existing town bylaw, chapter 15.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second, John.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thanks very much. Next on the agenda is a resolution to congratulate the EPA, the governor of the Commonwealth, the entire administration of the Commonwealth, the select board, and the Ponset River Watershed Association for their support of the EPA's request that the Lower Neponset be added to the national priorities list, which would qualify us for Superfund funding. We did address this. We did on the 14th of this month pass a resolution so stating, and I'm not exactly sure why it's on the agenda again, but we did pass that resolution. And Arthur, I know we've had some subsequent discussions, and you have had some discussions with the select board and with Mike Dennehy, as I have. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to reconfirm that the Conservation Commission does support the EPA request that we be added to that is the Lower Neponset be added to the national priorities list for cleaning up the PCBs that currently are contaminating the river.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. And like the previous item, this one will be on the select board's agenda starting at 7 o'clock this evening. The proposed motion for the select board is to endorse the unanimous resolution of appreciation by the Milton Conservation Commission, commending the EPA for designating the Neponset River as a Superfund site. There is a public comment, written public comment deadline of November 8th. And, it's optional. But the question is whether or not we want to recommend to the select board that a formal communication from the town, including the unanimous endorsement of the Conservation Commission and the action taken by the select board, which I would anticipate, would be favorable this evening, would be communicated on behalf of the town of Milton. Just put that out for thought.
Great idea. Are there any comments or suggestions to either change or enhance or say it differently than Arthur did? If not, I request a motion to support our request to the select board that they consider tonight on their agenda to accept our endorsement and add it to theirs, to send a congratulatory endorsement to the EPA, the state administration, and the Ponset River Watershed Association, and others in the town of Milton to support this designation as a Superfund site. That's a mouthful, but is that a motion?
Yeah. So moved.
Is there a
Exactly what you said, John.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second, thanks, Ingrid. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the memorial for Judith Darrell Kemp, and that dovetails with a presentation that Wendy has. And I would note that she brought this up at our last public meeting, and it was her suggestion that we could take advantage of a proposed joint venture with the Garden Club and take that opportunity to designate a memorial for Judith Darrell Kemp, which I think is an extraordinarily fine idea. And Wendy, I thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. This may be a huge opportunity for us to honor Judith.
Well, actually, John, I don't have a formal presentation. It was my understanding that this was just going to be a continuation of our informal discussion.
It is. There's
Okay.
nothing formal about it, but just to alert the commission members as to what's going on with the Garden Club.
Yes. Well, Ingrid, if please feel free to speak up and join me as I do my best to recollect what is happening. The Milton Garden Club is considering a proposal to be a part of a larger initiative, which is, I believe, with the Garden Club of America. And that is that the individual municipal garden clubs are looking at converting some of town parcels that are currently being mowed as grass, and seeing that as an opportunity to convert some of that space into habitat for some of our pollinators. So letting it revert to a more natural setting with native plants that are attractive to birds and bees and other pollinators that are really important to the ecosystem. And so the Garden Club is still in the early stages of this. And my understanding is that it has not officially been voted on yet by their board, their executive committee. But the smaller subcommittee that is leading the initiative had reached out to Ingrid and I, who Ingrid and I are also members of the Milton Garden Club, just to see if we would be available to help identify good parcels of town land that might be suitable for this project. And the criteria list is pretty small. They're looking at about a 1/4 acre of mowed grass that has good sunlight and good public visibility, so that it could be like a demonstration site to educate people about the importance of pollinators, and just what a good idea it is to if there's lawn that's not necessarily being utilized or prioritized, that it could be used instead for pollinators. So they're still in the very early stages of this. And when I just briefly mentioned it at our site walk last Saturday, I forget whose idea it was I don't want to take credit for it because I know it wasn't mine, but just the reminder that we had spoken back when Judith passed away, that we would like as a commission to figure out some sort of project to honor her legacy on the commission. And so I I just wanted to share the initiative with the rest of the commissioners to see if you guys had any awesome ideas that we could, that Ingrid and I could share with our friends at the Garden Club, and other possibilities that maybe we could collaborate with the club.
Right. John, Wendy and I had discussed, or Wendy brought up around Turner's Pond on the Central Avenue side, that there was some land that we believe is not DCR, is under the parks jurisdiction. I know we dealt with them with regard to the path around the pond. And so this piece of land that you were thinking of, and I admit I didn't go back to check if it looked like it was the 1/4 acre. I think it's at least a 1/4 acre it needs to be. But John, does that resonate with you and other commissioners as a good site? I thought it would be ideal because it gets loads of exposures of, there are lots of visitors going to, to run and take leisurely walks around that property. And also, I know that the school has got a garden, but in terms of traffic with children, I thought it would be a good site because there's lots of public exposure with the kids going to school every day.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And just so that we don't exclude any other potential sites, we should take a look at some of the land that we have deeded ownership to.
Yes.
Inventory of Conservation Commission land, and probably the one that could get that most easily would be either Arthur or Wendy. Wendy on the Open Space Committee and Arthur on the Milton Master Plan Implementation Committee. Both of them have access to that inventory, as do we, by the way. But maybe we could ask, Steve, if you could ask Kathy to distribute that list of Conservation Commission properties throughout the town.
Right.
I'd be happy to do that, John.
Yeah, that would be great because there may be areas that we've forgotten about. I know
Right.
that I certainly have forgotten about. I know we did get some land. There was a trade a couple of years ago. Was it Milton Street? Can't remember what street it was, John.
88 Milton, we picked up a conservation easement.
Yeah.
It is still being negotiated with the state, but we're getting closer and closer to that. We did get some land from the Milton Land Conservation Trust. That's the trust that John Cronin and Wendell were administering, and they gave some land to us, and they gave some land and conservation easements to the Wildlands Trust and some to us. So we picked up 4 or 5 new plots of land, some of them down by St. Michael's on Randolph Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some other open land that we've had for years. So we should really take a close look at that. But I do like Turner's Pond for 2 reasons. One, it's open and exposed to the sunlight. But also,
very good sun.
There's a lot of pedestrian traffic there.
Yeah, there really is. The other place that we had briefly discussed was Pope's Pond. Now I know the spot that we've been recently talking about is wet and not particularly sunny on the side closest to the high school, but on the opposite side there's a field. Now who owns the open field that has quite a bit of sun on the opposite side of Pope's Pond? Do you know, John?
Department that has that.
What's that?
I believe that's the park department.
Okay, so similar situation. Okay, yeah, would it be helpful to get that inventory to see what else is that we should be considering?
Another suggestion is the Garden Club may wish.
I can't hear. I know somebody's talking. We can't.
Sorry, this is Steve. I'll get a little closer to the microphone. The Garden Club may also wish to consider working with Cunningham Park because you said sunny, grassy meadows, Cunningham Park. Okay, and I should also tell you that the Milton Street parcel is mostly wet. So it would not be appropriate. It's mostly a little wet forest right now.
And not very sunny if I remember it.
Not in the forest, no.
Right.
You know, one of the things that Ingrid had reminded me about when we were talking about the Turner's Pond site is that there are an awful lot of invasives on the edge of that field.
Behind the fence, John, it's,
Yeah.
do you know where I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
Now, Ingrid, when you say behind the fence, do you mean that, so that's not actually the park department property?
I think it may still be, but there is a fence there, and it's very, very, very wet behind the fence. I don't know if there is a boundary that divides ownership entity over there. John, maybe you do, or maybe somebody else does.
I don't.
But there is a fence, and it's sort of the demilitarized zone. It's gone really wild, and the problem is the wildness is mostly comprised of really nasty invasive plants, vines and such.
Ingrid, is this at the Turner's Pond property?
Right. As you go in from Central Ave to the left,
Yeah.
behind where it is mowed.
Right. You're exactly correct. Yes, it is.
Steve, I'm thinking that this is actually the big part of invasives that you and I saw when we went for a site visit at one of the houses on Central Ave, just a couple of doors down from
That's correct. Yes.
That's the one?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the one.
So it occurred to me that, you know, maybe this would be a great opportunity for us to do something like a, you know, like a demonstration site or some sort of an experimental site for managing invasives as well. You know, we have so many homeowners who we work with that are grappling with these invasives, and you know, we do our best to let them know about different management techniques, but wouldn't it be great if we had some actually demonstrated here in Milton?
And to quote Judith Darrell Kemp, who would say, there is no good vine in the state of Massachusetts. If it's a vine growing wild, it's almost certainly a bad invasive.
Agreed. Except for grapes grow wild here.
That's right.
There is a species of wild grapes. You're right.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the only one.
I mean, I don't see necessarily the invasives that we have there at Turner's Pond as being as infringing on the possibility of this being a good site for the pollinator meadow, but I was thinking that, gosh, you know, if we're going to be using this space as sort of a public education opportunity, wouldn't it be wonderful to sort of piggyback, you know, these two ideas in some way? And I know that the state has grants that are available for doing exactly this kind of restoration work and public education work.
This is Arthur. Do you remember how excited Judith used to get about the garden at the Trailside Museum?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And my mind conjures up something of that nature. Native flowers, plants, bushes, identified. That could be an Eagle Scout project or something of that nature, and we could bring in all types of resources to help out, and maybe even be able to somehow come up with some funding to have an appropriate marker to identify the garden in her honor.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of a key to the plantings there and the different species. Yeah, absolutely. That would be wonderful. There was an Eagle Scout, Elizabeth Hiss's son, recently worked with some folks and put in a pollinator garden at the Forbes house.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of support for this, Wendy and Ingrid. So I look forward to seeing the initiative moved. I think the impetus is going to come from the garden club, if that's correct.
Yes, that is correct. This is definitely their project.
All right, but in the meantime, I think we can kind of get ready for it And if we could collect data like, the inventories held by the implementation committee and the open space committee, and from Kathy Bowen from our own committee, we could make sure that we've identified all of the potential locations for such a garden, and that whatever the joint venture is, it really should include the education component of how do we control invasive. That's a great idea. It's great. I mean, it does the things it was supposed to be doing, and it also helps us on the education side.
Right.
Right.
One other location does come to mind. I'm not sure if Elizabeth's son put the pollinator garden in Forbes Field, but that's an incredibly good location.
I'm not sure exactly where it is.
Forbes Field.
Right opposite Forbes' house.
Oh,
No,
Hutchinson.
That's the Hutchinson Field. No, it was not there. It was on the property of the
Okay.
estate. Yeah.
That's another really good sunny location.
That's true.
Yes.
That is very true.
All right, and that would be, one of the fields that would pop up not on our inventory list, but on the open space committee list.
Right.
We should join all these lists together so we know where the open space is.
Yep.
All right, so I think that we have a takeaway, and we can ask each to contribute to, if we could send all these lists to Kathy, and then she could distribute them to all of us for our next meeting in October. All right.
So John, in speaking about some sort of a tangible marker that for this project, is that something that we as a conservation commission have funds for, that we would be able to allocate for this? I mean,
I think the simple answer is yes. We also might be able to get some contributions from folks in the town. John Cronin will be able to tell us where the granite marker came for Martha Curtis, but that
Yes.
is the intersection near Glover School of Canton Avenue and Brook Road. There is a marker there. If somebody else can pronounce the lily, the Latin name for it,
Hemerocallis. Hemerocallis.
I believe that was donated, but I'm not sure.
oh,
But so if it was donated, great. If not, yes, we have the funds for that.
Yeah, but in this case, I think we want it to be substantive with text and images. Arthur, I think that's what I was envisioning when you brought it up, in terms of identifying different plants that are there and maybe invasives that you don't want in your yard and in your garden. So I was thinking more of an informative kind of thing, with attribution, of course, to Judith, but more of a visual and substantive explanation and that sort of thing, which would be a different animal than the Hemerocallis corner.
And the two concepts might be intertwined.
yeah, right. Yeah, a little bit of both.
Right. No, of course, but the Hemerocallis, that's a carved stone structure, and I think what we're talking about is that in either together or separate from a almost like a guide or a key to describe what the pollinator garden is and what it comprises, and maybe have a piece about icky invasives.
Good.
Sugar concurs. Okay, you're going upstairs, honey.
All right, so we have a takeaway from this, and we'll accumulate the information and keep the creative process going as to how we honor Judith and
Yeah.
how we display that to the public. Next on our agenda is additional business. Is there any, Steve?
Not to my knowledge. I can just give you one quick update. 82 Cliff. Give the committee members an update. I spoke with Dan Armstrong, a civil engineer, today, and he said that he would be glad to create a stamped plan for 82 Cliff, which shows the proposed cliff location within about a month or so. Okay.
That's great. That's good news. And
Yes.
I think we're all working in the same direction, although I'm not sure that the homeowner knows that. But
Exactly.
the way we can help him comply with the law, I think it's good for everyone.
Yeah.
That's great. So thank you for reaching out, and thank Mr. Armstrong for agreeing to assist.
Sure.
Okay. Is that it? Thanks. We should record the fastest meeting in history. Right? If there's nothing else, how about a motion to adjourn? So moved. Quick, somebody?
So moved.
All right, second? Yeah, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for putting in an extra meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.
Bye, Jerry.
Bye.